Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. Got you covered. Traditional leagues, Dynasty League, PPR League, IDP League, even Daily Fantasy Football League. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right, now, thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, brought to you by MyBookie.ag, home of the 100% price match guarantee. When you sign up, you make your deposit, they will match your first deposit up to 100%. And you are talking with Tate. I'm your host, as usual. And today we are going to talk about the very first game of the NFL season, the Thursday night game between Kansas City and the New England Patriots. We're going to talk about the winner and losers of that game. And then we're also going to help you get your lineup set up for the first week of the NFL season. And yes, I call the first week of the NFL season really Sunday. I don't know why I just don't count Thursday. It just seems weird to me. I am just a guy who likes football on Mondays and Sunday. I'm okay with Thursday, for Thanksgiving, but I just never got used to that. And I also, for fantasy, I never like playing guys on Thursday because as the season goes on, some of the worst performances you're going to have is on a Thursday night game. The week is just too short. I just do not like them. But anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox of talking about, my dislike of Thursday night games. And going to talk about the Thursday night game of Kansas City versus New England. And it was a bit of a surprise. There was a lot of fantasy football people out there that might have not got the results they were looking for. Traditionally, everyone's looking for Tom Brady, Gronk, to really light up the scoreboard, and it was not that way. Most people went with starting primarily Patriots this game, and it wasn't that way. Kansas City came out, won the game, looked impressive. There's a bunch of new not a bunch of new fantasy stars, but there's a new fantasy star out there, and his name is Kareem Hunt. And and I'll let you guys know this. I am guilty of this. I actually drafted Kareem Hunt. I drafted him in the third round, but I did not start him. Originally, I also had drafted Ezekiel Elliott. And when he was in my starting lineup in place of Ezekiel Elliott originally, but once all the stuff went down and Ezekiel was going to be playing the first game, and now it looks like he's going to be playing the entire year, which we're going to touch on as well, I took Kareem Hunt out of my starting lineup, and with standard scoring, he scored 39 points. He went for 17 rushes for 148 yards and a touchdown. He was 5 for 5 on receptions for another 98 and 2 touchdowns. Standard scoring leagues, he scored 39 points. PPR leagues, I believe he scored 45 points. And the big question is, what do you do with Kareem Hunt? Well, when you look at the numbers and you say Kareem Hunt did it as receiving out of the backfield, big breakout scores. He did it in the backfield, 148 yards. I have to put him in that category of those. He is the featured running back, so I put him in that category where I put him as starting next week. Definitely the top 10, but I actually put him as a top 5 starting running back going forward. If he's available, or and I'm sure he's been picked up. He's owned in 99% of the leagues. He was started, but 81% of teams that had drafted him. So, I guess I was one of those guys that didn't start him. But I also had Devontae Freeman and Ezekiel Elliott as starters, so that's a legitimate reason on why not to start him. But going forward, Kareem Hunt is a guy that you want to start on a regular basis. Other people in this game that was quite impressive. The next guy that was impressive in this game, we're on the Kansas City side of the ball, was Alex Smith. Alex Smith has just been known as the guy that he checks down and he dinks and dunks a lot, but he never really goes deep. He is not a guy that you want as your fantasy starter. But this game, it was a whole new Alex Smith, where he threw for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. And the question is this a fluke situation, or is this the new Alex Smith? I knew Kansas City wanted to come out with a different type of offense. I knew Alex Smith had a lot of pressure on him with Patrick Mahomes as the backup. And so is this the new look Alex Smith, where he's going to be going down the field and doing more of this? If so, he's a guy to have. I say I'm going to hold off on Alex Smith. I don't recommend going to get him. Right now, he's available in 34% of the leagues. He was started in only 5% of the leagues. He was projected to get about 11 points. He ended up with 38 points. I just say don't be a prisoner of the moment. Most players resort back to what they do best, what they've been doing for years. And Alex Smith has been doing this for 13 years. I don't think I just don't see him consistently going for the deep ball. So for that, I say slow down and do not, don't get crazy on Alex Smith as of yet. Now, if he does this again next week, then go for him. A guy that didn't have a good game was Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, he was targeted 7 times, caught five passes for 40 yards, only 4 points. This was just an off game. A lot of the catches that Kelce normally gets went to Kareem Hunt. This is just an outlier. Don't panic on Travis Kelce. I still say he's the second best tight end in the NFL. And also I like the way Kansas City was using him, where they gave him a couple of different options where they did a kind of a pitch to him. They are planning on putting Kelce into to give Travis Kelce a lot of touches. And so you want to make sure you have Kelce. Owned in 100% of the leagues, started in 95%. I would like to know who that 5% that didn't start him. You better have Gronk. Even though he had a bad game, I'm starting Kelce every week. Another Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill he was targeted 8 times, 7 receptions, 133 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 5 rushing yards. He had 19 points. Tyreek Hill looked good. He looked really sharp. He's going. This is his second year. Tyreek Hill is a guy that you have, especially if this new look Kansas City offense keeps doing what they're doing. Tyreek Hill is going to be a big part of that. He's owned in 100% of the leagues. He was started in 70%. If you haven't done your draft before this point, he's a guy to go out and get. I highly recommend him. I just really like what Kansas City's doing with him. And then the Kansas City defense, which was my defense, I didn't really expect them to do a lot this game, just because New England's offense is always such high power. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Yeah, they only had 5 points this game, but they got 3 sacks on Tom Brady, a guy who does not get sacked. They only rushed 3, and they look fantastic. And if they can fluster and rough up Tom Brady, they're going to fluster and rough up a lot of other quarterbacks in a lot worse ways. Kansas City is a must-have. Owned in 96% of the leagues, started at 63% of the teams. I want Kansas City as my starting defense pretty much against any other offense out there. So Kansas City looked good. Now I'm going to switch over and we're going to talk about the fantasy results on the New England Patriots side. Tom Brady, and a lot of the talk has been since this game is Tom Brady finally gotten old. Don't panic yet. It's too early to say that. Tom Brady is still Tom Brady. If you listen to the football show, we talk about how the last 3 times that New England had lost their opener, they won the Super Bowl. Don't panic on Tom Brady. If you've went out and gotten Tom Brady, stick with him. Kansas City has been known to have Tom Brady's number, been known to have the Patriots number. It was kind of, even with as great as Kansas City played New England, Brady still went for 267 yards and no touchdowns. And no interceptions, sorry. He ended up scoring 7 points. That's a bad day for Brady. He's a must start. And so I just think it's no need to panic yet. It's just way too early to be panicking on Tom Brady. Rob Gronkowski, Gronk did not have a good game. And I was concerned about that. When I was looking at the numbers with Gronk and I watched him, there's a difference between being healthy and being ready to play. And Gronk looked a little slow this time. He was covered by a corner. He doubled a couple times, but he just didn't seem to get open like he normally does. He still is just, it's still the first game of the year. He was targeted 6 times. He caught 2 passes for 33 yards. He ended up with 3 fantasy points. This was probably Gronk at his worst. With that being said, I still rank him as the best tight end in NFL. And, it's one of those things where it's way too early to make a move. Gronk is a guy you must start every week. Now, if he keeps doing this over the next 3 games where he's just not looking good, then there's reason to panic. But Kansas, like I keep saying, Kansas City has always had the Patriots number, and this is no different. There's one guy that I was really impressed with Kansas City, and that was Mike Gillislee. And I know I butchered his last name there, but he looked good. He looked really good. 15 carries, 45 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. They put him in that in that role where LeGarrette Blount was, where he's their goal line back. He's their short yardage back, and he did a really good job. Man, I was definitely impressed by him. He's owned in 98% of the league, started in 44. I'm always reluctant to go out and get a Patriots running back, but he's someone that you need to keep an eye on. And if you have him, hold on to him. See how the Patriots are going to use him, but he looked impressive. Brandon Cook, he's just getting used to being a Patriot. This is his fourth year, so this is kind of like the breakout year. There's no Julian Edelman. He's going to benefit, especially if Gronkowski starts off the year a little slow. Brandon Cook is going to get a lot of targets. He was targeted in this game 7 times, 3 receptions, 88 yards. He ended up with 8 points. But the 7 targets for 88 yards, that's the thing that I liked. You're looking at a guy who, that's their deep threat. I really liked how the Patriots did use him. He's a guy that you really want to have on your roster. Owned in 100% of the leagues, which is, of course, he started in 98. Right now, he's the 5th ranked wide receiver. He looks good. I'm looking forward to seeing and he's going to get better as the season goes on. The Patriots have a very complicated offense. As he gets more and more comfortable and Tom Brady gets more and more comfortable with him, he's going to start getting the targets. It's tough to talk about the Patriots defense just because of how many points they scored. Right now, I got a wait and see attitude with the Patriots defense. They gave up a lot of big plays to a quarterback that wasn't known to go deep. I'm going to hold off on the Patriots for now and see how this defense is coming together. That's my cause for pause. I want to see a bigger sample size before I make a ruling to start Patriots. I'm not starting them going forward until I see what's going on with them. A couple other players I'm going to talk about here with the Patriots as well is looking at guys like James White, who had 10 rushing attempts for 38 yards, and Dion Lewis, who had 2 rushing attempts for 9 yards. It's just one of those things with the Patriots where you just don't know what running back to use. I don't like using Patriot running backs. I would not, unless there's a major injury, I don't trust Patriot running back. I would not start any of them, especially these two here. Stay away from, right now I'm staying away from James White and Dion Lewis. You're going to have a situation where they'll have a big game, and then they're going to have 3 or 4 bad games. Just not a big fan. And that concludes my overview of this Thursday night's game of Kansas City versus New England. When we come back, we're going to talk about setting your lineup, and we're going to be talking about a little bit about what quarterbacks, give you like our top 15 ranking for quarterbacks. And if we have time, we'll talk about tight ends as well. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Ever since I started hosting this podcast, people have come to me for advice. Hey, who are you taking this week in the big game? Are you taking the Patriots or the Steelers? Or Chicago or Detroit? Or who do you have in the big fight? Well, let me tell you this. Before I tell them who I have in the game this week or the fight this weekend, I tell them that it's just as important as where you're betting as who you're betting on. And I always use mybookie.ag. MyBookie.ag has been around for years. They got a solid reputation. And the most important thing is they pay you out fast. There's nothing worse than winning a big, betting on making the right decision, picking the right team to win, and then you have to jump through all these hoops and hurdles to get paid. You don't have these issues with MyBookie.ag. Their payouts is as fast as within 2 days. And that's what I like best about them is I can place my bet, get my win, and collect my money. They have in-game, live betting, and some of the most rewarding perks in the business. They also have an all-new mobile site that makes wagering on the go a breeze. Join now, and MyBookie will match your deposit with a 100% bonus. Use promo code GSMC Fantasy to activate this offer. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, we're back, and we just finished up talking about that Kansas City, New England game, winner and losers, and overall results. Now we're going to take a quick time to go over who you should start for week 1 for as far as quarterbacks, and we went through with our top 15 quarterback rankings. This is going to change every week. We're going to try to do this before every game, just to kind of give you our rankings on where to start. If you got 2 quarterbacks and you're trying to figure out which one you want, use our ranking, and whoever's ranked higher, that's who I'd recommend you start each week. All right, and we're going to start off with, and my list is a little different than some of the ESPN and CBS ones. So my number 1 quarterback, and this is taking out Tom Brady and Alex Smith because their game has already been played. Because I would have definitely dropped Tom Brady out of the top 15 this week. Okay, so number 1, I have Big Ben Roethlisberger. High-powered offense, and they're playing the Browns, which is not known for a top-flight defense. They just got rid of Joe Hayden. Big Ben is our number 1 quarterback. Number 2, I was reluctant to make this guy number 2, but he is who he is. He's Aaron Rodgers. It's hard to drop Aaron Rodgers down further, but originally I had dropped him down to my number 6 quarterback, but then I brought him back. And the reason why I was thinking about dropping him all the way to number 6 was he's playing that Seattle defense. And the one thing Seattle has is good corners. It's a really solid defense. And so that's the reason why I was really reluctant, but that is Aaron Rodgers can make a little something look great. And if there's anyone that's going to pick apart that Seattle defense, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. My number 3 quarterback this week is Derek Carr. Back, healthy. Tennessee's a tough team they're playing, but he's going to be hitting Crabtree and the boys. I really like him. He's my number 3 quarterback. I got Matt Ryan at number 4, high-powered offense. They're playing the Bears. Very suspect. I expect a big day out of Matt Ryan. My number 5 quarterback is the one that everyone's going to be shocked on. My number 5 quarterback is Carson Palmer. Yes, Carson Palmer last year had a suspect year. It wasn't a great quarterback last year. He finished up strong. If it's an age thing, then I would say stay away from him. But if it's age, you don't finish the year strong. You start off strong and then you taper off. He got stronger as the year went on. They're playing Detroit. I really like Carson Palmer this week, so much so that I'm actually starting him on my team. Cam Newton is number 6. I would have actually had Cam Newton a lot lower, except for they're playing the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm going to start anyone against the 49ers. The 49ers are just a dumpster fire. I'm sorry. I don't like the San Francisco 49ers defense. Cam's coming off of shoulder surgery. He's lost a lot of weight. He's going to be playing a little differently. I have to see what this new Cam's going to look like. Also, he's going to be running less, which is going to take a lot of his fantasy value away. Because the game plan is to hand the ball off, pass more, but less 7-step drops. So that means less deep passes and less runs. I dropped him down to my number 6 running back. I got Russell Wilson at number 7. Russell Wilson is kind of forgotten. For some reason, seems like he's been a forgotten quarterback this year. But I really like him. He runs, he passes. Green Bay is a tough team, but he can definitely perform well. Looking forward to seeing him out there. I have him as our number 7 quarterback. Number 8, this guy, I almost put him even higher, and that is Drew Brees. The reason why I did not move Drew Brees up is because I think Adrian Peterson is going to kill Minnesota. This is his first time ever getting to play against Minnesota. Minnesota let him go. It's all day's game. I think it's going to be a healthy dose of Adrian Peterson with a side order of Adrian Peterson and an Adrian Peterson chaser. And that's the reason why I have Drew Brees ranked a little lower. It's going to be very interesting. That's the game I really want to see. Number 9 is Marcus Mariota. He's playing the Raiders. I think this is going to be Marcus Mariota's breakout year. This is a year that he is going to become not quite an elite quarterback, but he's going to be right outside of that elite level. This is going to be a breakout year. Number 10, I have Kirk Cousins. Just because, and Kirk Cousins breaks the top 10, I think he's a quality quarterback. I have to see his weapons. He's done a lot with little before, but he has even less weapons this year. I want to see what he does, but he is our number 10. He's playing Philadelphia. That's going to be a tough game for him. I got Matthew Stafford at number 10 against Arizona. Be careful with Matthew Stafford. He just got a brand new contract. They're playing Arizona. I have Eli Manning. Let me tell you this. Throughout the year, I think Eli is going to have a spectacular year. I don't know about this year, this game, because I don't know about Odell Beckham Jr., but I really like the receiving core that they have. I mean, they are stacked, and that's going to really help out Eli Manning. I got number 13. I got Andy Dalton. They're playing Baltimore. I think Andy Dalton could be a surprise pick. If you're desperate for a quarterback and all the top guys are gone, take a flyer on Andy Dalton as a backup quarterback. I think Cincinnati could have a breakout year this year. They could be back. Last year was a horrible year for Andy Dalton. The year before that was spectacular. I think last year was just kind of like an enigma. I would not hold that against him. Andy Dalton's going to have a good year. My number 14 is Carson Wentz with Philadelphia and Washington. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how he does. Does he make that step forward? This is a good game against Washington. And my number 15 guy is Dak Prescott. And yes, a lot of people may be shocked that we put Dak Prescott at number 15, but that Giants defense is going to be a bear. Also, I could see them giving, because that defense, and I hope I said the Giants defense is going to be a bear, just in case I didn't say that correctly. But also the fact that they're going to be giving the ball a lot to Ezekiel Elliott, a tough team to pass on. That's why I have Dak as my number 15 guy. With that concludes our quarterback rankings. We're gonna wrap the show up. Stay tuned. We're gonna when we come on our next show, we'll talk about how some of the teams did, how some of the players did. And with that, thank you for tuning in. I'm Tate, your host, and to all, have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.